Hello beautiful beings, and welcome back to my channel Soul Journey. My name is Beck Ahimsa, and today I wanted to talk about doing our best. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because that's all we can do. In the last several weeks, I feel a lot of us are really being confronted with our shadows, our collective shadow, and what it means to be present with ourselves and others, learning to love ourselves, learning to integrate our shadows. And since we're all doing this collectively, and then there's a lot of beings on our planet who are very unconscious of this shift, there's a lot going on. And I believe that all beings on this planet are a lot more sensitive than they're aware of. In fact, most beings are sensitive and they don't even know that they're sensitive. They just feel this like tension and anxiety and depression. And, you know, so many, especially in the younger generations, but even the older generations, I think they've just shut off their feeling to it. There's so much contrast that we feel between our authentic, expansive selves and the lives we are living. And when that happens, when we are that disconnected from our true essence, that's when pain comes in. That's when anxiety comes in. That's when depression comes in. One of my favorite quotes from Jim Carrey, and I'm going to like sum it up, is basically he said, depression is when your soul is tired of the avatar it's been playing. And I think that is a perfect description of it, because when our true essence is over here and we are in just deep resistance to it, that separation is what causes the pain. But we have to be gentle with ourselves because a lot of this is very intense. A lot of this, there's just a lot of energy going on. This shift is not gentle. It can be gentle if you are present with yourself and your guides and you can be guided through it, but as a general rule, there's a lot of expansion happening at once, and because to raise our frequency and to awaken and to align with the 5D, a lot has to come up that's been rejected so that it can be healed and integrated so that through oneness we can ascend. And when something has been rejected, or we see it as other, or that it's not okay, our whole system there's a reason why that's been rejected. And it's been rejected because we don't believe we can be loved. We don't believe we can get our needs met. We don't believe we are worthy if that is a part of us. And so when these things come up, they're very, very confronting. And that's not entirely what I want to talk about. That's just really setting up the basis for what I want to talk about in this video. What I want to talk about in this video is doing our best and being gentle with ourselves on a day-to-day basis. I've been reading recently The 4 Agreements. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It's a great, great book, especially right now, when we are collectively exploring the agreements we have with the planet, the collective story, the collective dream. A lot is shifting, and we're starting to recognize what isn't working for us, what's not in alignment for us, and we are dreaming a new dream. From contrast, we realize what we do want because we know what we don't want, and it starts moving us, and the thing we have to do is move away from what we don't want and start focusing on what we do want. But within that, there is a lot of energy happening in our system. And it's so, so important to be gentle with yourself. And the fourth agreement in the 4 agreements is do your best. And I think a lot of people often, when they think of doing their best, they mean, you know, the best that they can imagine, right? It's like, oh, my best would be getting up every morning, eating healthy, getting exercise, being productive. Like that's like the expectation of our best. But in reality, our best is different every day. Some days we are on it, and other days there's a lot going on, and we're processing through a lot, and that can be tiring, and that can be stressful, depending on the environment you find yourself in. But even when you're in the most loving environments, if you're in a space of where you're focusing on things that don't feel good, or you have filters up, it's impossible to actually experience the beautiful situation you're in if your filters aren't allowing for that. And I have this like tension in my shoulder. And I wanted to talk about this because one of my deep shadows has been vulnerability and not allowing for vulnerability. It's not something that was nurtured. I don't think most of us are, I think nearly none of us are, what am I trying to say? I don't think many of us are taught how to be vulnerable in a world where it's about getting what you want and going and being your best and like just like pushing through all of your boundaries and all of the self-care things just to like go after it. We're not taught how to be vulnerable and gentle with ourselves and dive into our inner being to guide us, but rather the status quo of what society has said is success. And I feel like I just lost my train of thought. I know where I'm going with this, but anyway. Yesterday, further back, I have, in my incarnation on this planet, experienced and struggled with for years depression, anxiety, deep, deep mood swings, debilitating feeling. And I think all of us, most of the time growing up, believe like, I didn't have it that bad. And I'm not saying I had a bad childhood, but like, I think because there's like a norm that we've like experienced to us, we don't really acknowledge how much it's affecting us. And someone else may have dealt with it differently or had a different experience, but like we can only go based on what our experience was. And I've always been very sensitive, and I've always been very deeply feeling. And so for a lot of my life, I really rejected a lot of aspects of me. Vulnerability, softness, being open-hearted. I really closed myself off in a lot of ways, not to the higher realms, but to the 3D, because it was, very uncomfortable. And yesterday, I just spiraled. And I think a lot of us are like really getting to know ourselves, right now, because like we don't have a lot of other beings to interact with. We are with ourselves. And we're confronting a lot. And it can be really intense. So for whatever reason, I had some really weird dreams the night before, and I have very vivid dreams most nights. And if they are not positive, they really set the tone often for my day. And I had some really dark dreams 2 nights ago. And I was just having one of those days. And I think that's what it comes down to, is like understanding that we can have those days and that we can renew the next day. And that doing our best looks different every day. Recently I've been so present and good at being vulnerable and feeling and being authentic and moving through my anger and allowing myself to be soft and vulnerable instead of angry and aggressive. But yesterday, I just went back into a lot of like old patterns, because on a level, you know, your system has defense mechanisms. And when you're tired and you're stressed, it's very easy to move back into those. And it's so easy to judge yourself for those days. And so the fourth agreement is so important because, you know, you can have all these other agreements and these expectations for yourself and goals and intentions for yourself, rather. But the fourth agreement is so important because it's about doing your best. And yesterday, my best was taking like 3 naps and being sad and depressed and letting me be taken care of by someone else. Because yesterday, I just did not have the capacity to hold space for myself. And I could judge that and say like, oh, I did so bad. Like, I could have done better, you know, like all that stuff. But like, that's not accurate. I really couldn't. There was a lot of feeling going on in my body. A lot of stories I was dealing with, a lot of pain and anger that I'm dealing with, and it can be overwhelming. And so I just wanted to come on here and say that, like, it's okay if this is hard. This is okay if you're feeling overwhelmed and not at your best. And by best, I mean like what we imagine our best to be. It's okay because we are collectively healing. When you have a broken leg or you haven't been feeling well, when you're healing through that, it would be unrealistic to assume that you would just like feel good all the time. There's natural ebbs and flows, and some days you have more energy than you do others, and some days you're feeling good and other days like you're like, oh God, I've been set back or whatever. But it's so important to be okay with that flow, because that extra judgment obviously isn't going to help at all. But we have so much potential for love and compassion and gentleness if we allow ourselves to be okay with giving it to ourselves. And so I just wanted to remind you guys, like, things are tough. And I'm not saying they're like more tough than other times or whatever, but like, they're tough. There's a lot going on. It's okay to struggle, and you will get back on the ride. If you allow yourself to take a step back and go, okay, this is one of those days, or this is one of those weeks, or, you know, just being gentle with yourself as you revitalize yourself, as you nurture yourself, you will be able to go again. And it's okay if that looks different from other people. All you can do is promise yourself that you're going to do your best for, you know, in whatever capacity your best is on that day. And to not judge what that is. You know, your excellence looks different on different days. And if you try to push past what you're capable of that day, you won't be doing your best, because you will be pushing yourself and you will end up, you know, falling deeper into that lower vibration because you're resisting your own needs. You're resisting your body saying like, hey, we need a break. And not just now, but just in general on the planet, this has been a huge struggle for humanity. You know, we're told you're a good employee if you go into work sick, you know, push through your menstrual cramps, you know, push through your emotional feelings. I don't care if you're depressed, go to work. Work, work, work. Be a single family, you know, don't be in tribal setting, you know, do it all on your own. It's not natural for us. And I really deeply believe that this time of being home and rest is literally from the collective asking of being like, we need a break. We need a break so badly. And as much as it's an uncomfortable reflection, that's exactly what we're getting. And let's be real, we weren't gonna do that without this like deep of a sit your butt down, right? We needed something to really get in our face and say like, hey, This isn't working. You're not treating the planet well. You're not treating yourself well. You're not treating the other beings on your planet well. Take a seat. Get centered, get present, reevaluate your priorities. And so, as a collective, we are doing that for sure. You see the people who are resisting it and saying, we got to get it back to the way it was. And other people are like, maybe something different. You know, there's a kind of a divide there. And it's really interesting to see who's doing that. You know, the beings who were not in a healthy space are saying, like, maybe we need something new. And the people who are benefiting from how it was, which was, you know, benefiting off the backs of everything else, are like, no, we got to get it back. Because they don't believe they can get their needs met any other way. So this is a great time of reflection for us as a collective, for sure. And a real blessing in a deep disguise. A lot of us are not willing to see this as, for what it is, which is a time of rest. Because it's so interesting, right? Like, the beings who are being affected most by this are people who aren't willing to genuinely nurture themselves. When people are sick, or when people are, you know, compromised, it means they're not, like, fully being open to their vitality. They're not letting themselves rest. They're not replenishing their bodies energetically, emotionally, mentally. And a lot of that's subconscious. That's not like a blaming. It's just they're not fully open. So it's interesting that it's forcing us to nurture ourselves and get present with ourselves and take a break, because that actually helps the immune system. That helps our bodies regenerate and be strong. So it's kind of interesting. But anyway, I just wanted to come on here and say, be gentle to yourself. Do your best, but don't judge what your best is every day. It's okay to have those off days. It's gonna happen. There are natural flows and cycles, especially through healing, so don't judge it too much. We've all gone through it, and we're all going through it. So just let yourself ride that wave and trust that your system is doing what it needs to do to heal. And when something comes up, look at it with love and say, okay, I see this. It's shifting through, just like during meditation, right? When you're meditating and the thoughts come through, you can either like grab them and say, that's me, or you can watch them go by and you can say, okay, I see that. I acknowledge it. I can learn from it, but I don't have to take it on as me. I can let it process through me with love. And that's what we're here to do right now. So even this share is very vulnerable. I don't often come on here and say like, hey guys, I've been super depressed. But I feel like it's so, so important that we can all acknowledge that we're in this together, and that we're all processing through things, and that we're all here for each other. It's really, really beautiful. So with that, I love you all so much. And I did just post to my social media a global Reiki practice post. So if you want to go check that out, someone started on the 21st of March where at 1 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, I believe, all Reiki practitioners are going to do Reiki for the planet, for the collective. And if you aren't a Reiki practitioner, you can just like send, you know, good vibes, love, meditation, prayer, whatever feels intuitive to you. But if you want more information about it, you can check out that post. I have an alarm set every day for 4 o'clock because that's my time zone. So if that interests you, go check it out. I just felt really intuitively led to share it. Someone shared it with me, and so I wanted to keep it going. So if that interests you, definitely go check out my post, and yeah, I hope you join in. Thank you. Thank you so much for engaging in something that isn't necessarily very comfortable, but is so healing and necessary. You are amazing and you are brave, and I deeply honor you and the aspect of you that is within me. Thank you for being on this ride together. Many blessings. Namaste. And don't forget, it is all about the soul journey.